Welcome to episode 1 of Breakthrough Weekly. I'm your host, Monica Pelayo, founder of Thriving Pathways, certified in hypnosis and RTT. I spent over 2 decades in the high tech industry, including 4 years in the CEO office at Intel, where I saw how stress, perfectionism, and invisible expectations quietly shape how we show up in life. After walking through my own healing journey through burnout, loss, and rediscovering purpose, I learned something powerful. Your mind can be your biggest barrier or your greatest ally. This podcast is about helping you uncover and rewire the subconscious beliefs that hold you back so you can create a life that reflects who you truly are. Because what I want most is for you to experience everything your heart desires: success, abundance, love, peace, clarity, and freedom. A life filled with joy, a life you truly aspire to live. Today's episode is called The Unseen Girl Who Became the Healer. Rewriting Childhood Beliefs with Compassion. It started when I was 15, the day that changed everything. Within that year, we just moved to Oregon, and we were in the process of buying a house. At the time, we were living in a small one-bedroom apartment. My parents had the bedroom, my brother slept on the floor in a sleeping bag, and I slept on the sofa. One afternoon, while my dad was handling paperwork related to the house, he received something important in the mail that required a quick response. I had checked the mail like I always did and told him about it, but he didn't listen to me. A few days later, when he finally saw the envelope, he got angry. The deadline was tight, and like always, he took his frustration out on me. He yelled, he blamed, and I remember feeling so tired of always being the one in trouble, tired of feeling like no matter what I did, I could just never get it right. That night, something in me broke. It wasn't that I wanted to die. I just simply couldn't imagine my life ever getting any better. I went into the bathroom, grabbed 2 bottles, one of Advil and one of Tylenol, and took handfuls of each. Then I went to lay down on the sofa. When my mom saw me, she instantly knew something was wrong. She saw my pale skin, my lips turning blue, and I could barely speak. She recognized that same look because when I was taller, I had accidentally taken her sleeping pills and nearly died. She immediately went into action. She made a homemade remedy, something she used before to detox. And as she was about to give it to me, my dad told her not to. He said if she wants to die, let her. But she ignored him and gave it to me anyway. Her mother's instinct was stronger than her fear. After she left the room, my dad looked at me and said, "Next time, if you want to kill yourself, just let me know. I'll buy you a gun. It'll be faster." Those words could have destroyed me. And for a long time, they did. For years, I carried that moment like a scar, believing I was unwanted, unworthy, and unloved. But now, looking back through the lens of compassion, I understand what was really happening. That night didn't create the belief, it confirmed one that had been living inside me for years. I had already overheard him once that he didn't want a girl, and from that moment on, I carried the silent belief that no matter what I do, it's never enough. In hypnotherapy, we uncover how these exact moments, the ones filled with rejection, fear, or abandonment, become the roots of the beliefs that quietly run our lives. That belief followed me everywhere. In my career, where I overperformed just to feel seen. In relationships, where I gave too much and accepted too little. In the quiet moments, where I tried to earn love that should have been unconditional. But when I started to reframe that memory, something changed. The details began to fade, like an old black and white film with the sound turned off. My mind no longer replayed it because it didn't need to protect me anymore. When you change the meaning, you change the story. And when you change the story, you free yourself. For many years, I carried deep resentment toward my father for his words, his anger, his actions, and his silence. But as time passed, something began to shift. He softened. He started giving me hugs. He smiled more. And for the first time, I felt like he saw me, not just as his daughter, but as a person. Later in life, my dad suffered a massive stroke that damaged the entire left side of his brain, the part responsible for logic, language, smell, and taste. As the time went on, his behavior became harder to manage. He started having emotional outbursts, confusion, and unpredictable reactions. Doctors explained that we were seeing was a combination of the stroke damage and cardiovascular dementia, which was affecting his personality and impulse control. At times, he acted almost like a toddler, emotional, reactive, and impulsive. But as I watched him, I began noticing something that struck me deeply. These weren't entirely new traits. They were the same patterns I had seen growing up, only now magnified by the brain damage and dementia. Through my own healing and my hypnotherapy training, I started to understand something profound. Our conditioning becomes generational. You can only give from the cup you were given, and my dad's cup was empty. He never received emotional safety, affection, or love growing up, so he didn't know how to give something he never experienced himself. He had lived with emotional pain for so long that his wounds dictated his responses. He didn't know how to process what he felt, so his pain became anger, and his anger became his defense. Seeing that helped me connect the dots. It allowed me to see him not as a father who hurt me, but as a man who was hurting himself. Then, during a moment of reflection, something I often do to understand and create awareness, a realization came to me that changed everything. Maybe he was angry because I had the courage to do what he never could, to try to end my suffering. That realization didn't excuse what he said, but it gave me compassion. It allowed me to separate my worth from his inability to love me the way I needed. Because my healing wasn't about fixing the past, it was about releasing it. What I've learned through my own journey and through my clients is that childhood beliefs don't stay in childhood. They become the silent programs that run our adult lives. That belief, no matter what I do, it's never enough, ran everything. It drove me to excel at work, to over-deliver, to prove my worth. But healing happens the moment you realize you don't have to earn your worth. Your value was never in question, only your belief about it. When you reframe the meaning, that your nervous system begins to recognize safety again. And that's when transformation begins. Caring for my father during his illness helped me see him in a way I never had before. Through that experience and the tools I learned in hypnotherapy, I was finally able to heal some of the heaviest memories I carried. Only then could I see the man behind the behavior. He carried the weight of providing the expectations and responsibilities he never asked for. He seemed trapped in a life that didn't reflect what he truly wanted. And instead of expressing that pain, he took it out on those closest to him. It wasn't our fault, but in his mind, we became the mirror for everything he couldn't control. Most people remembered him as kind, charming, and hardworking. And he was. But I also grew up fearing him. He was generous with others, always offering to help, to pay for things, carrying the burden of always showing up for everyone. And looking back, I can see that generosity came from a deep desire to be valued, to feel needed and appreciated. He was giving to others what he didn't know how to give himself: approval, worth, and validation. At home, that same sense of responsibility sometimes turned into control. He didn't see that providing for us wasn't the same as being emotionally present. He truly believed he was showing love the best way he knew how. And now, I realize he wasn't a bad man. He was a man ruled by emotions, reacting from wounds that were never healed, because anger is just pain in disguise. That understanding freed me from the victim mindset. It taught me that healing begins when you stop living from the old story, when you choose to write a new one. Because if the unseen girl could learn to see herself, then maybe, just maybe, she could help others do the same. Healing isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about rewriting your story with truth, compassion, and faith, until what once broke you becomes the reason you rise. If this story touched you, share this episode with someone who might need a reminder that healing is possible. And if you're ready to begin your own breakthrough, you can book a one-on-one personalized hypnosis session with me at thethrivingpathways.com/appointment. Each session is designed to help you uncover the subconscious beliefs that keep you stuck, so you can move forward with clarity, confidence, and freedom. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok under The Thriving Pathways. And join my Breakthrough Weekly newsletter for deeper reflections and tools to reprogram your mind and reconnect with your purpose. Remember, awareness is the first step. Choosing differently is the shift. Thank you for listening to Breakthrough Weekly. Until next time, keep honoring your truth and keep rewriting your story.